This first session is designed so you can familiarise yourself with the FLX lighting console and the layout and the terminology we use before you move on to the training. What we will cover is also detailed in the first few pages of the FLX Quick Start Guide, available to download from the 088 website. Looking across the front panel, the first thing we see is the 24 multifunctional faders. Their function can be changed with a tap of this fader function button. When set to channels, each fader directly controls the intensity of each of your lights. It doesn't matter if they're a dimmer, an LED or a moving light. If it has an intensity, it has a fader. The button below the fader allows you to select the channel, ready to control any additional functionality. For example, the channel's colour or its pan and tilt. The page up and page down buttons allow you to page through all the channels on your console. Pressing both at the same time will take you back to page 1. Tapping fader function will switch the faders into playbacks. On each of these playbacks, you can record a single or multiple lighting state, known as cues. The button below each fader acts as a go button to cycle through the cues on that playback. There are 10 pages of playbacks, making up 240 playbacks altogether. If you'd like more than 24 physical faders, one or more of the Zeros wings can be plugged into FLX via a single USB cable. Each Zeros wing has its own separate fader function and page up and page down buttons, meaning that there are no complicated settings. You just choose a different page to control on each wing. As well as these, there's an additional master playback. This is exactly the same as the other 240, but it's got a larger go button and a dedicated pause button. And it's always available no matter what function or page your multifunctional faders are on. These 4 buttons are your user definable keys, or UDKs, and they are useful for house lights, working lights, strobe, smoke machines, blinders, etc. The button can either flash the lighting state, or it can be set to fade it up on the first press and back down on the second press. UDKs can be alternatively used as shortcuts to quickly access groups, palettes, macros, or additional functions which some users might be familiar with, such as rem dim, highlight, park, etc. Some of these features will be covered in later training. At the bottom here, we have our numerical keypad for operators who prefer a command line style interface to control channels. To the left of the numerical keypad are the command keys. These are used to complete various commands such as record, updating, naming, deleting, and copying. Above all of this, we have the multi-touch screen, which shows you the tools specific to what you're currently working on and the channels you're currently controlling. The keys to the right of the touchscreen are your attribute keys, and they are used to access functionality like colour, position, and effects. Pressing any of these attribute keys will update both the multi-touch monitor and the functionality of the 4 encoder wheels. The keys to the left of the touchscreen are called the function keys. They are used for things like entering the console's setup, recalling and recording macros, and changing the current view on the internal or the external monitor. On the far right of the touchscreen, we have the blackout and the grandmaster key. We have the Z key, which gives you quick access to things like saving your show, patching an additional fixture, or calibrating a touchscreen. And the arrow keys, which can be used for navigating around the monitors. On the rear of the console, we have a Kensington security slot, a Nutric PowerCon True 1 for the power input, a DVI-D for an optional external monitor, which can also be a touchscreen, 2 USB ports along with the 3 others on the sides and the front, a Nutric Ethercon for networking, 2 5-pin DMX outputs, MIDI in and through, a sound to light input, and a 9-pin D-sub connector for 8 close contact remote triggers. The optional external monitor shows all the channel intensities in the top half of the screen and your cues in the bottom half. An overview of all your playbacks is also available by tapping the View button. Tapping it again will take you straight back to your cues. You can also view the 4 attribute windows by pressing the palettes window in the bottom right of the corner, or by pressing Shift and View together. This is really useful to help speed up operation. Pressing the programming view or pressing shift and view again will take you straight back to your cues and your outputs. We'll automatically detect if you haven't got an external monitor plugged in and change how the view button works. So tapping it will switch between the cues and the playbacks on the internal monitor rather than the external monitor, and shift and view together will show the output window on the internal monitor instead.